Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
Come to the Keswick Tavern in Keswick, Iowa this Friday, February 28th from 8 to midnight for live country music from Luke Fox. Luke is making his debut here in Southeast Iowa, so come out and have a great time. The Keswick Tavern is at 117 South Iron Street in Keswick, and there's no cover charge. Get your friends and have a fun time this Friday night. Live country music this Friday night from 8 to midnight with Luke Fox at the Keswick Tavern. The Brooklyn Opera House in Brooklyn, Iowa presents Jordan Bean with Sam Roberts in concert Saturday, March 1st at 8 p.m. Tickets are just $12.50 in advance, $17.50 at the door. Jordan Bean is the Iowa Music Awards Country Music Artist of the Year for 2024 and the 2023 Midwest Country Music Organization's New Artist of the Year. It's Jordan Bean with Sam Roberts at the Brooklyn Opera House Saturday, March 1st at 8 p.m. Hey, Steve here on Steve Shetler Media, and we are hanging out today. I've got Neil with me.
Hey, everybody.
Neil. Hey, we've got Cyvannah Vecchio with us today as well. Cyvannah, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Neil, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic.
We don't want to
always.
overlook you. So we're hanging out today. We are talking with Cyvannah Vecchio. And Cyvannah, tell us who you're with, what organization you're with, and what brings you to town.
Yeah, I am with Four Oaks Foster and Adoptive Family Connections, and I am a recruitment and retention coordinator. So I basically look to get other quality foster families from the state of Iowa in a certain service area.
Okay, and so you kind of work in this area. What counties are all involved in your district or your region?
Yes, so I am in the Cedar Rapids service area, so I have 13 counties. I just started working here about a month and a half ago, so I can't list all those 13 counties for you yet. But two of the ones that are kind of highlighted for importance for us right now are Keokuk and Wapello, which I know are right here in this area. So we're just trying to recruit more foster families from those counties specifically.
Okay, so Four Oaks Family and Children's Services. Now, that organization, they're based out of Cedar Rapids, is that correct?
So that's where my service area is based out of. There are 5 different service areas in the state of Iowa, and I am technically service area 4, and we're called the Cedar Rapids service area, and Cedar Rapids is probably our biggest city in my service area. So.
Okay. So tell us about the needs and what's going on in the world of foster care here in eastern and southeast Iowa.
Yeah. So the state of Iowa in general has about a 30% deficit in foster families compared to the number of children referred. So I think of it as for every 10 children that need a safe, stable home environment, 3 of them right now wouldn't have access to that just because we don't have enough foster families. That's true across the state. And our goal, like I said, is to get more quality foster families, basically who want to make a difference in their communities by serving some of the most vulnerable populations.
Okay. And and that's something, we were chatting before we came on the video here about the needs here in Keokuk and Wapello County, like you were saying, and there's more need than people probably realize.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, it's hard to imagine somebody here in right in our own hometown that is in need, like a child that is in need of a place to stay. So what are the situations, or how does a child come into a need for a place to go?
Right. So when when there's a referral for a child to go to a foster family, the department, HHS or DHS, whichever way you know them as, they have already done everything that they can to safely keep that child in their home with their parents. And in the event that that's not possible and there are no relatives that they're available to go with, then they would go enter into the foster care referral system. And so then that comes to Four Oaks and that comes to us. And we first search in a 20-mile radius to place children within their communities, right? We want to maintain some level of normalcy in a really abnormal situation for them, right? And especially one that they didn't contribute anything to. And
Yeah.
so, we look first in a 20-mile radius, and if there are no available foster homes in that space, then they have to branch out further and further until they can make a match with a foster family.
Okay.
So, quick question, if I may. What merits a foster family? And obviously that's where you're leaning towards is needing more. What are, I shouldn't say requirements,
Yeah.
but the guidelines to become a foster family?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. So some of the really basic requirements, it would be that you're 18 years or older, that you have the ability to pass a background check, or be able to explain things on your background check. Obviously, there are situations where there are some things on a background check that aren't explainable and that would kind of remit you from that, but you would have to do those things. And then after that, there's an inquiry process. You go through orientation, and so you go through all of these steps. There's an 11-week class that you have to take. It's about 33 hours of training. You have in-home evaluations throughout the process. So you have to hit these criteria, and that's something like HHS establishes, and they ultimately decide if a family is able to be a foster family. But really, the biggest thing is that you feel you are able to welcome in children in your home and have a stable, safe environment for them to begin to thrive, like that you want to see them succeed, right? And a lot of times that involves having a really good sense of humor and just being open to learning about other people and cultures.
Neil?
Well, she snickered and she said a good sense of humor. So I'm thinking one of us is what she's leaning towards.
So, in my limited knowledge of foster care and stuff like that, one thing that might get confused is what's the difference between foster care and adoption? Can foster care lead into adoption, or how does that work?
Sure. So when you are going through the licensing process for foster care, you have the ability to select to be dual licensed for foster and adoption. So while there's no foster to adopt program in Iowa, you can adopt from foster care if a child's case gets to that point where they need an adoptive home. And it requires nothing extra for you during the certification and licensing process. It's all the same classes. It's all lumped into one. It's just you just get to select the determination of whether you want to be foster or adopt or both. And so adopting from foster care is much different than general adoption. There are no fees attached to it like private adoptions. But yeah, there's everything leading up to that point is actually foster to reunify. So the goal is to keep biological families together when possible. So really, when you are agreeing to be a foster parent, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I can't commit to forever right now. Well, you don't have to. And even if a child becomes adoptable, that's not necessarily an obligation that you have. That's a choice that you would get to make at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting stuff. And I was also asking you beforehand, where is a child? Like, if there's a child in need right now of a foster home, maybe their home life is troubled. They're kind of in between phase. Where is that child? Or is there like shelters? Are there certain places where they're waiting?
Yes, so there are kids in limbo, and in my role, I don't work super closely with that. But what I do know is they try to keep them in safe places where, like, there are shelters in the state of Iowa. But before you get to a certain age, you obviously don't want really young children in that environment. It's just a better environment to have them in a home-like setting. So until they can get them into a home, there's a lot of Four Oaks employees that are working to keep them safe themselves.
Okay,
that's interesting.
So, and as you mentioned, there are kids in need. And what's the oldest? What's the age range of kids in need?
0 to 18. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, until you kind of graduate out of the system. But some of our most needed places are homes for sibling groups and homes for teens. Those are some of our greatest need for foster families. So those families that are coming in who are open to taking more than one child at a time and open to taking kids who are older, than the elementary school age.
Okay. So lots of stuff to think about. There's lots of stuff to unpack there,
Right.
with the foster situation here in Iowa. And also, this is just coming to mind. I'm just kind of rambling as things pop into my brain. So if you get into the foster system, or you're wanting to foster a child, is it going to be somebody from your hometown, or is it going to be somebody from we're in Sigourney? Can you take a kid from Oskaloosa? Can you take a kid from Watchir, Ottumwa, or what?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, if place a child with a relative or what's called a suitable other or fictive kin, which is essentially someone they have a close positive relationship who's not related to them, then they will look into foster care placement. And yes, they are looking in a 20-mile radius to start. Okay. So it's not necessarily in your town. You can get calls from in your town, but it's in that general area. And then, but they're also looking at matching and preferences for the foster families, right? Okay. So if you have certain age preferences, they're going to look in your direction first. Or if you have the ability to care for medically fragile kids, they're going to knock on your door for those kinds of children, those kinds of placements. But yeah, generally the first thing that they're looking at is proximity. And then if the match will be a successful match based on your preferences. However, kind of like I told you guys earlier, there is such a need for foster homes that more often than not, you're going to get lots of calls that are outside your preferences just because they're looking for anyone who might listen to the needs of a placement and be like, oh, that could work for us, even though that was outside of our original preferences.
Okay. All right. Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you wanted to get out there? Or have we covered the bases?
Yeah, I feel like we've covered a lot of things. I think that there is a general stigma maybe surrounding foster care that these kids are inherently bad or there's something wrong with them, and that's just not the case. Kids haven't done anything to be placed in these kinds of situations, and pretty much what they need is somewhere to be safe and stable that they can rely on. And if that is you, then reach out to me, because especially if you're in this area, I work to connect families with beginning the process for foster care.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once again, you're with Four Oaks. What's the official name for Four Oaks? Give us the big one.
Four Oaks Foster and Adoptive Family Connections.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the Facebook page right now. It's Four Oaks Today. Ooh. Is what you could type in. Facebook.com/Four Oaks Today. Otherwise, the logo pops up with Four Oaks and it says expect success. Is there a website? Do you know anything? Or is there a website that people can go to?
Yeah, I think it's fouroaks.org is just the general website. And you can actually click and you can see the service the areas that they serve and what service area you would be in. And so if you click on that map and you see the Cedar Rapids service area, it covers your county, that would be me.
There you go.
All right. Well, Sierra, before we get out of here, we do want to mention, and now I know your sister,
yes,
who is an Iowa-based artist named Eaton Moses. So, Eaton, shout out to you, Eaton. We enjoy Eaton. So, Cyvannah Vecchio.
Yes.
I like your name.
Thank you.
All right. Cyvannah Vecchio from Four Oaks here in, again, serving eastern and southeast Iowa, and kind of new to the job, but hey. Yeah. You got thrown into the fire today doing this interview, and you did a great job.
Thank
so
you.
I appreciate you coming to town today and helping us out in our new digs. Yeah. Spoiler. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Cyvannah.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Neil. Thanks
for
having me.
Thanks for being here.
All right, and maybe we'll talk to you again here in the future.
Love it.
All right.